Good evening, grave robbers, and welcome back to the television graveyard. We're your TV necromancers, Laura Prince and Noah Houlihan. We have come here tonight to examine the spirits of past television shows to find out which ones could be resurrected, should be resurrected, and which one should stay doomed. This is a podcast in which we'll analyze the history, the hype, and the aftermath of shows that ran only one season, only one episode, or like 3 cartoons in the middle of a longer running show. With me as always is TV's Noah Houlihan.
Lord Bravery, Lord Bravery.
Yes.
Lord Bravery.
I wasn't sure if you were going to be doing more, so I was letting that roll.
That's the best singing I can do. So I went with just the 2 Lord Braveries.
So we are in fact doing Lord Bravery.
Yes, Lord Bravery, which I for some reason have a weird attachment to. I love Lord Bravery. I thought I only remember one of the 2 cartoons, and I thought it was hilarious. Let's find out if I still feel that way. So that's how I felt as a child.
So these were in Freakazoid.
Yes. The best way that I think we can describe this is Animaniacs. Animaniacs was had a collection of cartoons. You always got like an Animaniacs cartoon.
Yes.
But you also got a Rita and Runt, or a Katie Kaboom, or whatever those hippos were called, or a Pinky and the Brain. Pinky and the Brain was pretty much the most popular of those, to the point that it became its own cartoon. And
later got a spin-off with Elmira.
Yes, Pinky, Elmira and Brain.
Which we covered on this show.
Covered right here. So basically, you can take any cartoon that you see as part of a collection like that and be like, you know what? That's kind of a backdoor pilot.
Yes. So this also relates to Animaniacs in that these are the family of Amblin Entertainment cartoons.
Yes.
That were one of my favorite things on the planet in the early 90s. There were not a lot of shows I sat down and watched attentively.
Right.
I generally had the television on and was doing whatever it is I do.
Yeah.
But I did watch Animaniacs, Tiny Toons, and Freakazoid.
Yes.
Pretty faithfully.
I was a big Kids WB kid. Because back in the day, dear listeners, there used to be Saturday morning cartoons. If you wanted to watch cartoons, you had to wake up on a Saturday morning, and that's when they played. And there were basically 3 camps that I really remember when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. There's 4. There was ABC, there was CBS, there was Fox Kids, the Fox Box, and the WB. And the WB completely won me over at some point.
Yes.
Where I would watch their cartoon block from start to finish. So it was like Animaniacs, the Sylvester and Tweety Mysteries.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say some sort of live action. I want to say Big Bad Beetleborgs, but I feel like that might
Big
have been
Bad Beetleborgs, I do believe, was Fox.
Yeah. Animaniacs, Freakazoid, and Earthworm Jim, which was actually my favorite. Big Earthworm Jim fan. And then Superman the Animated Series usually in there as well, somewhere.
Yeah, there was all sorts of... There were a lot of cartoons that aired. I think we are thinking of really early Kids WB.
Okay.
Because I think that's when we were really actively engaging with it.
Well, I also remember, there was a jump from Fox. Because Fox, I believe, originally aired the Tiny Toon Adventures.
I want to say Tiny Toon Adventures may have been syndicated.
That, I guess, is because what I'm remembering...
Animaniacs did air on Fox. That I will confirm.
Okay, because what I remember is coming home from school and watching Tiny Toons, Animaniacs, Batman the Animated Series on Fox.
Yes.
And then they all kind of made their way over to the WB because they were Warner Brothers products.
I'm not sure I ever remembered Tiny Toons running on Kids WB. I mean, you're probably right.
But it kind of, I believe Tiny Toons probably ended before the WB block.
Maybe it was like the earliest.
Because eventually Tiny Toons moves to Nickelodeon.
Yes, Tiny Toons airs on Nickelodeon for an incredibly long time. Essentially, they just air a second run. Animaniacs also has a long run on Nickelodeon.
Yeah, as do Pinky and the Brain.
Freakazoid, I think, is the only one that does not.
Yeah.
I do not recall Freakazoid having a long run. I mean, this show only runs for just under 2 years.
Yes. And Freakazoid, Freakazoid is 2 seasons, so we can't cover Freakazoid as a whole. But what can you tell us about Freakazoid?
Freakazoid, like I said, ran 2 seasons. It was created by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini.
Yes.
Who also are very well known for being 2 of the masterminds behind Batman the Animated Series.
Yes.
We can really say that Warner Brothers Animation was banger after banger after banger. Because they were really... This was the 3rd show after Tiny Toons and Animaniacs in that sequence, Batman the Animated Series. Believe it or not, was intended to run primetime at one point.
Really?
Yes, Batman the Animated Series did have a very, very brief primetime run.
Oh, wow.
It didn't quite catch on. That also sort of explains why it had a little bit more of an adult feel.
Mm-hmm.
It was somewhat intended to be a primetime release, and it's still kind of like a cartoon, and it didn't quite have...
Right.
It aired Sundays at 7 p.m. From winter 1992 into early spring 1993. So it aired in this, like, sort of no man's land of that December-January block where there's not a lot of programming.
Right.
So it was... They assumed it would elevate the production to being seen as like, oh, it's not just a kid's show, it is Batman the Animated Series.
Right.
Interestingly, it was probably the least campy Batman, because the Tim Burton Batmans did have camp elements.
Yeah, of course.
So I see where they were trying to do this.
Right.
I digress.
Yes. But we're here to talk about Freakazoid, who brought us this cartoon. So
This show is weird.
Freakazoid as a show is very crazy. On, like, occasion, you'll get an episode that has a coherent plot.
Yes.
On other occasions, it'll just be ADD television, just here's a bunch of bits. And when you're doing a bunch of bits, one of those bits occasionally is Lord Bravery.
I mean, this show only... I want to point out, this show only runs 24 episodes total.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought there was way more than that, because
No.
we have 2 discs. Or 2 seasons.
Yes, the first season is 13 episodes, and the second is 11 episodes.
Oh, wow.
The second season does lean into more of the 1 or 2 segments per episode.
Gotcha.
In a way that the first season really does 2 or 3, and occasionally even 4. We see one of the ones we're going to talk about has really 5 or 6.
There are yeah. Like, we did watch we got to give some context, so let's slow down a little bit. We watched these on DVD. We got DVDs from a library, which means, one, probably won't be any clips in this episode of Stay Doomed, because I can't get them from the DVD onto my laptop that doesn't have a DVD drive.
No. And 2, we got like a sick anti-piracy ad.
2, let's talk real quick. There's 3 things that we experienced that are also doomed things that I wanted to bring up. The first is the anti-piracy ad, which I was just like, or Laura mostly said this, was like, we're not pirating. Why are we being punished?
And it's Warner Brothers bespoke one.
Yes.
It's Warner Brothers Wizard of Oz themed one, where Dorothy and friends are being called to the carpet by Oz the Great and Powerful for pirating a DVD.
Mm-hmm. And if we had pirated it, we wouldn't have to watch that.
Yeah, that is the funny thing with these. Because we saw the anti-piracy ad and the ad for the thing we were watching.
Yes, we did also get an ad for the thing we're watching.
Which is such a, DVD era. Hilarious. Also, I want to point out the anti-piracy ad also looked like crap.
It did.
I have a note here of, your average 17-year-old could barf up a better ad on TikTok. With, the tools that you have on you physically.
Yeah.
At a given time, you could probably barf up a better ad.
So then we go on to the Freakazoid show. The premise of the Freakazoid show is it is post them being notified of an alien invasion. Do we want to cover all this, or do we just want to cover Lord Bravery?
We could just cover Lord Bravery.
Okay.
So a group of bobbies sings the theme song.
Yes. The thesis note that they are trying to get across in the first moments of this is going to be painfully British.
Yes.
So a bunch of bobbies, which are London police or British police, sing the Lord Bravery song. And Lord Bravery is a Spartan. He's in a blue jumpsuit with a red cape and one of those hats that's also a brush.
Yes.
And a star on his chest.
They sing the theme song, and the podium he's on, the pedestal, collapses around him.
Yes.
And he just goes, oh, let's get on with it.
Yes, to kind of show that he is a sad sack.
He feels no pain, he can fly quite fast. In feats of strength, he is unsurpassed. His grip is firm, never quavery. Britannia's superhero, he's Lord Bravery. Lord Bravery, Lord Bravery, Lord Bravery.
Of sorts.
And also, it's that very dry British humor.
Yes.
I don't know if I've told this story. I'm of English descent.
Yeah.
My grandfather's car exploded one time in his driveway. His car was just on fire. He called the police, as one does, or in the fire department, and then just stood out next to it, just smoking his pipe. And I was not alive for this. This was before I was born. But it's kind of become family lore of that's just how dry and resigned the stock I come from is.
Right.
So I was like, oh, it's Grandpapa.
So yes, the stiff upper lip.
Yes.
And they do this very interesting thing where the first thing they do is sing the Lord Bravery song.
Yes.
Then there's a title card introducing the cartoon.
Sewer Rescue.
Sewer Rescue. While that's up, it plays I Am the Very Model of a Modern Major General.
What? It plays Hail Britannia.
Not during the title card. Because first it's that, then it's Modern Major General, then the establishing shot is bum 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 ba da 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 da. Because it's this is British!
England!
British! Do you get it? So it's just beating you over the head with how British it is. And we open on Lord Bravery in his hideout / apartment that he shares with his mom and grandmother. And he's trying to
It's his wife and mother-in-law.
It's his wife?
Yes.
He's married in this cartoon?
Yeah, he keeps calling her darling. Darling.
I just was you call your mom darling because you're British.
No.
No?
And it took a moment, but it's established a little later on in the cartoon that the older woman is her mother.
Okay.
So he's pretty, Nigel, the tea is ready.
Yes.
And he's pretty thoroughly henpecked by his wife, and I have the note of either his or her mother, but it's definitely her mother, we find out.
So yeah, the starting conflict is Lord Bravery is trying to listen to the police radar using a supercomputer to find crimes that for him to go save the day. But his wife and mother-in-law want him to go get the tea because British. So they have a bit of an argument, and Lord Bravery drops this line.
Oh, Oh, yes, let me get the tea.
You forgot the sugar.
Most people your age die. Why won't you?
Again, this show just couldn't happen now.
Whoa!
Because could you imagine? So they said his wife wants him to get a job because he's like a starting out superhero.
Yes.
And he argues, do you think Superman started out at the top? Yes.
Yes.
Oh. And they ask him to go to the shop and pick up a bunch of things.
Yes, they encourage him to fly around and, look for crime. And while he's out, why don't you get groceries? And then the next shot is him flying, which I find very interesting because Lord Bravery has a power. And it's flight. Which is notably a power that Freakazoid himself does not have. Because Freakazoid in canon cannot fly. He just puts his arm out and runs and makes noises.
Whee, whoosh.
Yeah. So it was very interesting to give a side cartoon the power that Freakazoid doesn't have. But that might be me overanalyzing. So as he flies around, he does find someone who needs help. He finds a person who is, in fact, stuck in a sewer.
So he pulls out a camcorder and asks a nearby child to film the rescue.
Yes.
Your standard Tiny Tim, Dickensian, British child.
Yes. Which is very interesting because there's a show that we've been meaning to do on this podcast for a while called Zack Stone Will Be Famous.
Yeah.
It is the Bo Burnham MTV show. And this is also a plot on that show. Is Zack Stone gets the idea, a way I'll get famous is I'll film myself saving somebody.
Yes.
So I was like, that's kind of interesting that kind of ties together. But the kid, of course, just runs off with the camera.
Yeah.
This is a bit of comedy. Feels like such a throwback.
Yeah.
Because the bit here is Lord Bravery is on the street. And this man is stuck in the sewer. And they're having a conversation about how he's going to get saved. But, of course, Lord Bravery is far too posh to go into the sewer himself.
Yes.
So they kind of have this argument where the guy's like,
What's that smell?
I think I fell in the sewer.
Ow! Can't you climb out?
If I could climb out, I wouldn't be yelling help now, would I?
Well, you could have at least yelled, help, I'm trapped in a sewer.
What would that have done?
Saved me a trip.
Do you think you could get me Superman?
Oh, Superman? What do you need with him? I'm a superhero, aren't I?
but this entire scene takes place on the street shouting down the manhole.
Yes.
We never go into the sewer.
Not even once.
We never see the man he's trying to save. He is just a voice.
Yes.
And when you're working with a medium like animation, it's such an interesting decision to not show a character like that.
Yeah.
It's such an interesting director idea. Does it save money on animation? I'm sure it does.
It does, because then they don't have to create the designs of that character or that interior.
Yeah, part of the show is just a still shot of an open manhole while someone's going, "Get me out, please." But I found it so interesting and I loved it.
Lord Bravery, I thought that was a joke to distract me from my horrible pain. It's not working.
It reminded me of Newhart.
I have a note here that really goes with what you're saying. This is so dumb, but also explains my literal entire sense of humor as a child.
Yes.
We both loved this cartoon.
But if you're not familiar with the stand-up comedy of Bob Newhart,
I love Newhart.
a lot of his comedy comes from these one-sided conversations. One of his best bits is a security guard working at the Empire State Building when Godzilla attacks. And it's just him on the phone. He's like, boss, we got a problem. No, it's a toe? It's just a big toe that came through the window. I mean, I already hit it with the broom, but I'll do it again. And, like, the fact that you don't hear the other side of the conversation is part of the joke. So this kind of, like, is reminiscent of that style of comedy because you don't see the person in the sewer. This is the type of expert analysis you only get here at Stay Tuned. Who else is talking about Lord Bravery?
So eventually, Lord Bravery's throw down the rope. The person on the other end grabs it. And what do you think happens?
That's right. He gets pulled in and falls into the sewer.
He just pulls Lord Bravery in the sewer. And despite the fact that we've established Lord Bravery can fly, they just sit in the sewer and go, maybe we should call Superman.
Yeah. But bump.
And that's how it ends.
So that is the first Lord Bravery cartoon. So that goes on to the next episode that we got into. And before we get to that Lord Bravery episode, we do run into another Doomed thing that I know you want to talk about.
Straight up from the beginning, we get an entire sketch about stereo where available.
Yes.
And for our older listeners, anyone who's like mid-30s and up, probably hasn't thought about this in 30 years. Because
right.
Why would you?
Why would you?
But almost every show growing up would start with stereo where available.
Yes, in stereo where available. And the sketch is the narrator saying that and then explaining, if you want this to be in stereo and it's not on us. We don't want letters. Talk to your congressperson or talk to the network that's carrying this. We did our best to make this be in stereo. And where available it is. So we don't want your complaints.
It was something that it was based on your personal equipment. In stereo where available meant it was transmitted in a way that if you had a stereo setup,
yes,
it would do the audio in that way.
Yes. Which means left and right channels, right? I'm pretty sure that's the difference between stereo and mono. Mono, everything's one channel. In stereo, you could record things to singular channels. Like, for example, if you're ever listening to Bohemian Rhapsody, and it is being played correctly, the Galileo will bounce between two speakers.
Yes.
Because it's only recorded on the left channel and then the right channel to kind of create this kind of feeling of motion.
If you listen to it in like headphones, you should be able to get this effect.
Yes.
It's why certain audio does sound distinctly better in headphones.
Yes. So if something was in stereo and it was available in stereo and you had that thing, something like a car going by, which if it started on the left-hand side of the screen, the noise would start out of the left speaker, then go to both, then go to the right speaker as it was driving by to create kind of like motion. That's all Freakazoid's making fun of. This is a thing I haven't thought about in 30 years.
Yeah, it's something that you saw all the time until one day you never saw it again.
Yeah, because it stopped being a thing.
And you just didn't. I just find it very interesting because it's such a time capsule piece. Mm-hmm. And I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it's kind of like how... Here's another example of something that we used to see all the time and now no longer. The following film has been edited to fit your screen.
Yes.
Basically, before all televisions were widescreen, they were 4x5, or I forget what the box television was. So whenever something like Comedy Central was airing a movie, the choices were to either put black bars at the top and bottom of the screen, or edited it so that it zoomed in a bit and you're missing part of what was there. Like you are actually missing part of the show. So, yeah, as technology changes, these things kind of fade away. And it was cool to see Freakazoid bring this up.
Yeah, another thing, you used to get the same thing about color.
In color where available?
Yes.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, that's where the show In Living Color gets its name.
Yeah.
Is In Living Color where available.
Yes.
And part of Color specifically was to create ye old FOMO.
Yes.
Because a lot of people didn't have a color television yet. Mm-hmm. It created a huge demand for color television because you felt like you were missing out.
Yes.
The show Disneyland was actually a major proponent of color early on.
Yeah.
To the point where a later Disney branded show was called The Wonderful World of Color, which is why the Disneyland show is still called World of Color.
That makes sense.
And that is unrelated.
It really is. This is a WB product.
So
let's talk about the Lord Bravery cartoon.
We get the whole title sequence again.
Yes. It should also be mentioned, just because we hadn't mentioned it, Lord Bravery is visible in the opening of Freakazoid. But Lord Bravery is now in Office Meeting. This is the one that I remember and thought was, like, so funny.
He's at the Hall of Records. The first thing that happens is he gets in an elevator, and everyone else is dressed completely normally.
Yes.
So everybody just straight up laughs in his face.
Everybody laughs in his face because why is he dressed that way? So we can assume that we live in a world of superheroes, but they are not common or respected. I guess he technically shares a universe with Superman, but that's over in the States. So, like, there's not a lot of superheroes. Or maybe it's probably in this world they know Superman, and the idea of someone else trying to be Superman is laughable. So Lord Bravery is brought in because he didn't copyright his name.
Yes.
And someone has opened Lord Bravery's Bakery.
Yes.
So he has to change his name now.
Yeah, and the man behind the counter, Mr. Snarzetti,
Yes.
is very kind about it. He's like, look, the children will love you no matter what your name is. You're a party clown, right? And we find out his real name is Nigel Scunthorpe.
Scunthorpe, yes.
And so he's trying to help Nigel find a new name. And one of the ones he suggests is Lord Smoked Meats and Fishes.
Yes.
And Lord Plastics Advisory Board.
Yes.
So he goes to the bake shop to try to convince...
Oh, there's two beats I need to talk about before we get to that. One is he doesn't understand why he can't just also be Lord Bravery. He's like, well, what if you're in the middle of saving somebody and they stop and ask you for a scone or muffin? And he's like, oh, I understand now. You're a loon.
Yes.
It should also be noted that they're running through these names like Lord Smoked Meat and Fishes. And they're like, how about DreamWorks? And there's a moment where he considers it. And they're like, oh, sorry, that one's been taken. Twice, actually. That'll be a lawsuit. Which I'm sure is a real thing that happened. There must have been two DreamWorks.
DreamWorks is an animation studio that was partially founded by Spielberg.
Oh, okay.
About a year before Lord Bravery.
Okay. Gotcha.
About a year before Freakazoid airs.
Gotcha. All right, so they're just bringing up DreamWorks.
Yeah, I think they're just doing a little funny bit based on the boss.
Gotcha. So the idea then comes that if he goes to Lord Bravery's bakery and convince the owner to change that name, he can keep his own. And as luck would have it, the owner doesn't like the name Lord Bravery's Bakery.
Her name is Helen.
Her name is Helen. She'd love to do to name it Helen's Bakery, but
there's already a Helen's Butcher Shop.
There's a Helen's Butcher Shop.
So Helen and Nigel go to the butcher shop and ask the butcher if he'd be willing to change from Helen's Butcher Shop. And he goes, my name is not even Helen. I'm Rudy.
Yes.
So then they have to go to Rudy's Hardware and Twine.
Yes.
Hank's Ties, and they end up at Bill's World of Paint.
Yes, so by the time they get to Bill's World of Paint,
There's like 20 people.
There's like 20 people. It's just like, if you change your name, then the tire shop and then the automotive shop and the hardware store can change, and then I can be Lord Bravery. It's just this long stack of dominoes. And the guy behind the counter goes, "Why would it do that? My name's Bill."
So it ruins everything.
What? It's a great gag. It really is. Like, of course his name's Bill. So he gives up on the scheme, and the next time we see Lord, I'll just say it at that, a child is stuck in a tree.
Yep.
And he says, "Never fear."
Fear not, my good woman. Lord Smoked Meats and Fishes has arrived.
The mom is like, "Well,
Get away from my son."
yeah, I don't want a superhero with that name to save my son." And he's like, "You don't understand. My real name's Lord Bravery." And someone says, "Oh, really? Could I get a scone or a muffin?"
Yep.
And that's the end of the cartoon.
I did want to talk about the other cartoon, the other appearance of Lord Bravery. Because we did say there were only 2 Lord Bravery shorts.
Oh, of course.
But I do want to talk about the last appearance of Lord Bravery.
Yes, it should be mentioned that I believe, I didn't write this down, the first Lord Bravery cartoon is episode 3, season 1.
Yes.
The second, I think, is like episode 8, season 1.
Yeah, it's also in season 1. I believe it's actually even earlier than
It might be 5, yeah. Because we didn't even have to swap discs.
Yeah, it's episodes 3 and 5.
3 and 5. The final appearance of Lord Bravery and Freakazoid is brought to us by the second to last episode of Freakazoid ever.
Of the series, yes.
Yeah. This is where Freakazoid ends up at a Comic-Con.
Yes.
And we're big convention nerds. Many of you listening found out about us through conventions.
Now, I will say, this episode airs in 1997.
Before, like, the boom.
Yes, because I was going to conventions just before the boom.
Yes.
Like, my first conventions were, like, 06, 07, 08.
Right.
And that, I would say, is just before the boom.
Mm-hmm.
In 97, they are still extremely niche events.
Yes. So, Freakazoid is chasing a...
Cave guy.
Cave guy through the convention, and someone immediately is like, "Oh, thank God, Freakazoid's here to answer questions."
Well, the first thing he does is beats up a cosplayer.
Yes.
Who is cosplaying as Cave Guy, which is a good bit.
It's a good bit.
And then he gets sucked into a panel.
Yeah, he gets drug in, and is like, "Freakazoid, we've been waiting for you." And he sits down next to, like, a very strange-looking guy with a plaque in front of him that says Sylvester and Tweety.
Yes.
Referencing the Sylvester and Tweety mysteries. Freakazoid's like, "Okay, I'm here. Who has questions about Freakazoid?" And he takes questions from the crowd, and they all ask him about Superman.
Yes.
Which is nice that the hatred of Superman is just throughout the whole series. Freakazoid eventually snaps and says,
Okay, that does it. Anyone interested in Freakazoid, stay. The rest of you, get lost. So, any questions about the show?
You're very popular in a number of state institutions.
The resolution of this cartoon is Cave Guy is so grossed out by a Klingon cosplayer that talks to him.
Yes.
And he's so grossed out by the fact that they have their own language, which in the cartoon is accurate. It is the accurate Klingon language.
Yep.
That he just jumps into a cab and he's like, "Get me away from here." Meanwhile, it turns out that Freakazoid was the Klingon.
Yep.
He was the cosplayer. Ha ha ha. And then, like, all of a sudden behind him is his supporting cast.
Yes.
It's Lord Bravery, Moron, who is the unintelligent life that visits Earth.
Yes.
There's life out in space, but it's not intelligent. And another character named the Huntsman that I don't remember.
Yeah, who's like a weird Robin Hood knockoff.
But, like, super buff.
Yeah. He reminded me of a different Robin Hood knockoff that I couldn't place.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand.
Maybe I'm thinking Monsieur Hood from Shrek.
Maybe.
Because I remembered there being a Robin Hood knockoff in one of these cartoons.
And Lord Bravery is among them. And Lord Bravery is the one who says, Freakazoid, what are we doing on the show this season? Which is hilarious. Because that means that we have not seen Lord Bravery on a Freakazoid cartoon since episode 5, season 1.
Yeah.
And there must have been people going, wasn't there like this weird brush head guy?
What happened to the British guy?
Yeah, what happened to him?
I mean, for a show that runs only 24 episodes, he is seen twice in the first 5, and then not seen again until the 23rd.
Yes, and then he pops up just like, so when are we doing something? Like, I've just been here waiting to do things. So Freakazoid has him wash the Freakmobile.
Yep.
And he simply just says, well, they're still on the payroll. And that's the end of the cartoon. It's so funny. It's so meta before meta was really huge. It's like... It's a really good ending to Lord Bravery.
It is. And several other characters.
Yes.
It was fun.
Yeah. So... I want to gush about Freakazoid. I do.
Yes.
But we are here to talk about Lord Bravery. And I want to give Lord Bravery the respect that he deserves. So we are going to spend the next 5 minutes just talking about Freakazoid to get it out of our system. This has been us talking about Freakazoid. Please explain that bit.
In one of the episodes we watched, they did a pastiche of the emergency broadcast system.
Yes. Something else that's pretty much dead. I don't think television is interrupted with a test of the emergency broadcast system anymore. But there was a time where something would come across the bottom of your screen and be like, yo, we're going to test the emergency broadcast system at like 6:02. And then 6:02 would come around and every channel would flip to the following is a test of the emergency broadcast system. It is only a test. Followed by a long, like squeaky noise. And then this was a test of the emergency broadcast system. It was only a test. If this was an actual emergency, this would have been where you would have heard instructions. We now return you to regular programming.
Yes, it used to be used considerably more, so this would have been a more timely reference. It is not... They do not test it as frequently nowadays with newer systems. But they used to test it fairly frequently. It was about once a week.
Oh, yeah.
So it was very normal to hear this. Especially for a child audience, there was no way you didn't hear it at least sometimes.
Yes. So Freakazoid does his own.
This station is conducting a test of the emergency broadcasting system. This is only a test. This concludes our test of the emergency broadcasting system. This was only a test. If there had been an actual emergency, we would have gone like this. Help! Help us! No! Get us out of here! Help me! Help everyone! Ah! Thank you.
And I loved this because I, like many people my age, loathed Emergency Broadcast Testing Day.
Yes. And The reason I kind of think that it's dead was I kind of remember after 9/11, after like a few weeks went by, just one by one people going, hey, what happened to the emergency broadcast system? That was an emergency.
Yes, they stopped using it in the late 90s.
Yeah. So all that testing was for naught. I'm surprised he hasn't come back.
So, I'm realizing I don't think you remember watching this. Because I'm surprised the show has not come back. But Freakazoid has been seen.
I know this, because you're going to talk about Teen Titans Go, right?
Yes.
Yes, Freakazoid returns in Teen Titans Go.
In an episode called Hugbees. Which it is very much... Oh my god, it was the 296th episode of Teen Titans. Yeesh.
Yeah.
So, they're getting very, very meta at this point. The Brain, who is a character in Teen Titans, not the Rat,
Right.
teams up with the Lobe.
Nice.
And they get Freakazoid, and it is also the last time the late, great Ed Asner voices Sergeant Mike Cosgrove.
Oh, really? Cosgrove's in that too?
Does appear. We might have to watch this entire episode.
Yeah.
Because I saw a clip of it, I did not realize he was in the entire episode.
But Freakazoid is, like, I think of his theme song, and one of the lines in it is he's trying to get a movie deal.
Wants to make a movie deal. Freak me, freak you. He's here to save the nation, so stay tuned to the station.
And, like, I think we live in a time where we could have a Freakazoid movie around now. Because it wouldn't be for children. It would be for us, and they could still get away with all the things.
I mean, it would have to be very much in the vein of Chippendale Rescue Rangers from 2021.
Yes.
Or 2022, excuse me. That vibe of it's technically appropriate for kids, but, like, kids aren't gonna care.
Yes. So, I love Freakazoid. We're still going to watch more episodes of it probably before we have to return the DVDs to the library. But we are here specifically to talk about Lord Bravery.
Yes.
Lord Bravery only had 2 cartoons. Judging on just those 2 cartoons, what's your verdict? Should there be a full series of just Lord Bravery?
No. I think he works great in another show, but I always think of I Am Weasel.
Yes.
I Am Weasel started out as a segment in Cow and Chicken.
Yes.
And always worked a lot better as a segment in Cow and Chicken.
Mm-hmm.
Because this used to be completely normal, by the way, younger listeners, of just a cartoon would have a completely different cartoon in the middle for no apparent reason. Like, Garfield had U.S. Acres, Dexter's Lab had Dial M for Monkey, and Justice Friends?
The Justice Friends, yeah.
I was trying to remember what their Don't Sue Us Justice League name was.
Yeah. This is a good, like, game for us to play. Is I'll get a list of the secondary cartoon, and you tell me the actual cartoon show.
I am so down for this.
We'll play that some other time. That'll be a bonus episode we'll do in the future. But I agree. I love Lord Bravery. I think he's very funny. But his role in this is to be an anti-superhero. And it works especially well in contrast to the zany, constant movement of Freakazoid.
Yes.
To have this slow, mundane cartoon.
Yeah, I mean, I think it fits really well in Freakazoid.
Yes, it's perfectly fit for that. Should it be spun off into its own show? No, it should not.
No, and I think Pinky and the Brain is rare.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think a lot of those cartoons can survive becoming their own show that way.
Right. I agree. I agree. So unfortunately, as much as I love it, it is a stay doomed. If they were to resurrect Freakazoid, would I like to see Lord Bravery back? Of course. But like 2-3 cartoons tops. Because Freakazoid's the star. And I think that's going to do it for our episode on Lord Bravery. Unless you had anything else to add.
I do not.
Well, if you have something to add, please come talk to us on our Discord. We'd love to chat with you there. A lot of Muppets talk right now. We're very sad about the end of Muppet Vision 3D, so you can come chat with us about that in our Discord. Or where else can people find us?
You can email us at thestaydoomedshow@gmail.com or on Facebook and Twitter at Facebook and Blue Sky at Stay Doomed.
Yes. And if you drive around in the Freakmobile, I'm at TV's Noah on Blue Sky and Instagram.
If you would be interested in a Stay Doomed episode about Muppet Vision 3D, I'm Laura Crane on Blue Sky. Until next time, stay doomed.
Freakazoid, chimpanzee.
He's here to stay the nation, so stay tuned
to the station. Elsewise we'll be unemployed. Freakazoid, Freakazoid.